Hello, my name is Mike Allan, and I'm the CEO of Routeique. We're an AI and machine learning-based logistics and supply chain platform that serves some of the world's largest brands. And as such, we have some pretty unique views on the challenges that companies in general and particularly e-commerce companies face in the logistics and supply chain space. So happy to chat about some of those today. So we're going to cover a few strategies today that will help make businesses like e-commerce businesses more efficient. Things like right-sizing your inventory, using technology to better plan for demand, end-to-end tracking, recording items in a single source of truth like an ERP or somewhere else, and getting that really high-level view that you need to get a complete picture of what's going on in your operation. So there's a number of reasons why businesses either don't do this or find this difficult. Things like being ready to make changes, managing the change on the people side of things, the cost, the time, just knowing what's out there. But really, providing this better insight, foresight, and oversight is really what we do. It's allowing that better decision-making at speed, at scale, autonomous decision-making wherever possible, and really providing those three pillars that really help give you a clear picture of your business and the things you need to do to make changes. So the first one's right-sizing your inventory, which is really just making sure that you have the right amount of inventory on hand to balance the equation between, minimizing stock outs and shorts, and then not having too much stock and creating more cost and more difficulty in managing it. So how do you actually set those numbers and manage them in real time to make sure that you're always in balance and that you're never out on one side or the other? So the second strategy we're talking about is really using technology to manage demand and balancing supply and demand. So in order to actually balance the supply side, you really have to have a pretty good picture of what's happening with the demand today, what's likely to happen tomorrow, what are the factors that are going to affect that movement, is it going up or down, and why? And really creating those tools that will help you predict that. So by employing tools like machine learning and AI, you can actually automate some of those processes. You can get more granular, more real-time visibility into what's coming, better forecasts, and those better forecasts form the baseline of your strategy going forward. If you have accurate forecasts, you're going to have more accurate responses to those forecasts, and that's really going to help smooth things out down the line. So the third strategy is really about end-to-end tracking. So, once you have a good demand and supply forecast and you really sort of have a good picture of what you're going to be looking to move through the system, now it comes time to actually track the movement of those goods through the system. And of course, anything that goes off the rails in terms of what's happening in the moment is going to affect your numbers on the outset. So you really need to make sure that every single movement a product makes is tracked both physically, it's moving in physical space, but also state-wise. Is it changing hands, changing custody? Is it changing status in the system? And if you can do that and you can actually track end-to-end the entire life cycle of that product from the time it, say, leaves the plant all the way through to when it reaches a customer, then you've got a much better picture in terms of data to actually use both to diagnose problems when they're happening and to make sure that you're measuring your KPIs in real time so that you actually have a qualitative and a quantitative picture of what's happening in your operation. So the fourth strategy really involves having a trustworthy central source of truth and making sure that all the information that's required to make decisions, to build forecasts, to react in real time is incorporated into that source of truth, whether that's your ERP or additional tools, or even a combination of tools that build up that source. But the trick is centralize it, make it accessible, remove those silos to data that prevent people who need the data from interacting with it, and then make sure that the data is correct and accurate, and that you don't have conflicting data sets. So that could be a combination of data that's generated by human interaction. It could be things like sensors, IoT devices. It could be generated by partners in the network. But however you get it, you have to centralize it, you have to make it accessible and usable, and then you have to make sure that you've scrubbed it, cleaned it, done the hygiene to make sure that your data is telling the true picture of what's happening today, especially if you want to use that to predict what might happen tomorrow. So the fifth and final tip that we're talking about today is just really getting a high level or a holistic picture of your entire network. It's great to look at a micro level at a single facility, a single 3PL partner, a single lane, a single channel. but it really makes a lot of sense to look at it holistically as a network. How is product moving from the top through the network to the bottom? Are there more efficient ways to do that? Are there more efficient routes to market? Are there complementary or alternative routes if one of them goes down or temporarily becomes unavailable? And how are things generally flowing from place to place? I think a lot of companies look at individual business units, individual partners, individual physical locations separately, when really it makes more sense to take a step back and look at the big picture, as well as the micro and the macro level at the same time. So those are basically it. Those are the 5 strategies that we're talking about today. And taken together, what we really like to talk about is those 3 pillars of insight, foresight, and oversight. What we're really talking about there is insight is effectively, do I have a clear picture of what's happening in my operation today? That's not a given for most companies that we work with. Do they have a total, complete, clear picture of exactly what's happening in the operation at the moment? Usually not. But once you can get to that level, once you get that baseline data going with those strategies we talked about, the next step would be foresight, which is effectively a fancy way of saying what's going to happen tomorrow. It's the combination of minimizing future risk by seeing it coming and mitigating it or acting on it, and capitalizing on future opportunities by seeing them coming with enough time to actually react and capitalize on them. So the final pillar is what we call oversight, which is really, again, a fancy way of saying compliance at a distance. How do I take my entire network, all of these different partners, all these different groups with different business models, different goals, different standard operating procedures, and make them behave as a single unit? It's really what we call network orchestration. And part of that is, how do I make my network comply when I don't own it, I don't control it, and I'm not that close to it? How do I do that at a distance? And I think these 5 strategies and subjects like that can really help get a better picture of the entire operation and really bring it all into focus and allow you to think about it as a single ecosystem, a single unit, as opposed to a lot of disparate partners doing their own thing.